Hey, what's going on, Headliner Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Headliners. In free agency, we're nearing, I'm recording this episode about 10:34 on night one of free agency, and there's been quite a bit of activity today, really on the defensive side of the ball with a lot of the big-name free agents signing contracts today. Offensively, some lower-named guys, some guys that maybe not will offer you some value here in fantasy football. Already talked about Nick Foles and Devin Funchess in separate videos, so make sure that you check those out. Already up on the channel running, so get a look at those and get a reaction there. But here I've got 5 guys that signed contracts today. Just want to talk a little bit more about them and give you some fantasy football type reaction to it. Thanks so much for tuning in. As always, if you like the content here, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Over 29,000, closing in on 30,000 soon, so we're excited for that. So subscribe to the channel, and if you're new to the channel as a subscriber, let us know in the comments below so we can welcome you. If you do have any questions about any of these guys, if you disagree, if you think their stock is heading in a different direction, maybe you're excited for somebody that I'm not, let us know below. Let's talk about it a little bit. And then obviously as well, like the video if you appreciate the content here today. We always appreciate those likes. Let's jump into it here and talk about some of these values a little bit more and start with Jamison Crowder. Jamison Crowder was a guy that I liked last season. I really thought he was going to bounce back. I really did, and it just didn't end up happening, mostly with some injuries. Obviously, the quarterback situation there was up and down, especially with the Alex Smith injury and things of that nature. But Jamison Crowder heading to the New York Jets. I like it for Crowder. Hate it for Quincy Enunwa, man. I was really looking forward to watching him this year, but he's headed back to the outside with Robbie Anderson, and Jamison Crowder will occupy the slot. So let me just, it's a small sample size, but let me just throw out some numbers here for you real quick in terms of what Quincy Enunwa did out of the slot to begin last season. 36 targets, 21 receptions, 278 yards in his first 4 games. So he was a target hog to begin the year in that slot position. Jamison Crowder, hopefully he sees some of that same volume to start the year and continues it. If for some reason the Jets decide to go with a pass-catching running back, if they sign somebody in free agency, like a Tevin Coleman, like a Le'Veon Bell, I don't love that for Jamison Crowder. I don't think it kills him, but I think at that point we're looking at a guy that maybe has in PPR leagues, wide receiver 3, really at best. I don't think he goes much higher than that. If he could be the B option, the 1B, the 2 option, whatever you want to consider him, next to Robbie Anderson and Quincy Enunwa, I think he can reach a little bit more, maybe that low-end wide receiver 2 in PPR. I don't expect a whole lot, but I do think his stock is heading up. I think it's better for him to be in New York with Sam Darnold than it is for him to be in Washington with, you know, a quarterback situation again that we don't love that much. So, and an offensive line that isn't nearly as good either. So, definitely think he's trending up a little bit. Obviously, I'm not saying wide receiver 1 anything crazy like that, but I do like his value going up. 2017 too, just to go back here real quick on Jamison Crowder, sticking with him for a minute, to go back, his breakout year in 2016, 99 targets, 67 receptions, 147 yards, 7 touchdowns, was really a good value in PPR, a guy that a lot of people maybe picked up off the waiver wire that helped an awful lot throughout the season. 2017, it wasn't nearly as good, but I warned people that really the performance was solely based on touchdowns. His drop in production wasn't that much. He only went from 67 to 66 receptions. He only went from 847 receiving yards to 789 receiving yards. Even his yards per reception between the 2 years, 12.6 to 12.0. It was dropping from 7 touchdowns all the way to 3 that hurt him in 2017. 2018, obviously mentioned it, dealing with the injury, just wasn't nearly as good last season. However, his yards per reception was a career high at 13.4. So heading to New York now, I do like the fit. I think he's still going to be a good value there on draft day, as long as, again, they don't add like a pass catching back. And then also Chris Herndon. I think this hurts Chris Herndon's value a little bit. I know tight ends, a lot of maybe tight end premium leagues, 2 tight end leagues, different leagues like that. Chris Herndon was a name that continued to pop up. I'm not liking him nearly as as much now with this signing. Moving on to our next guy, Adam Humphries. I think he's going to be the clear-cut wide receiver 2 in Tennessee, but is that enough to help out with your fantasy team? He's coming off a career year, 105 targets, 76 receptions, career highs, 816 yards, career highs, 5 touchdowns, career high. So he's cashing in at the right moment, exactly at the right moment. Average per reception last year, 10.7 yards per reception. Here's my issue, though. And this is why I have Derrick Henry as a running back 1 as of right now. He's my running back 12 in my early rankings for 2019. Because I think Tennessee is going to move towards a focus on the run game. I really think that's going to happen. Adam Humphries, if they move to a focus on the run game and the run game works, if Derrick Henry and Dion Lewis succeed in bringing people closer to the line, Adam Humphries, okay, Corey Davis, I like both of those guys to have a much better season. However, him moving from Tampa Bay, which now has Bruce Arians, which is going to have a really good passing attack there. There was really no shot that he was going to stay in Tampa Bay. However, him leaving still, I think, to Tennessee is a downgrade for him because now he's going from Jameis Winston to Marcus Mariota. I know a lot of you out there might not think that's a big difference, but I think it's going to be a little bit of a difference. Marcus Mariota is going to have to take a huge step forward. The offense as a whole is going to have to function a lot better. I just really think Adam Humphries, I don't hate him next season. I think we take a look at him in PPR leagues, but don't draft him for what you saw in Tampa Bay last season because he's just not going to do the same thing. And then obviously not going back to Tampa Bay, I think is why I have him trending down at this point. The next guy on my list is DeSean Jackson. He's headed back to Philadelphia. There's going to be plenty of opportunities for big plays there. I don't think he's going to offer tons of volume though. So he's going to be big play dependent. At the start of last season, at the start of 2018, 3 of his first 4 weeks, he had over 100 receiving yards. Really, with Ryan Fitzpatrick at the helm, had an excellent start to the season, one that a lot of people didn't really see coming. I don't see that same type of volume. I mean, he's going to have, in terms of weapons there, okay, you already have Alshon Jeffrey. Okay, you have Nelson Aguilar, a guy who can also stretch the field. Not nearly the type of player that DeSean Jackson is, but he can stretch the field as well. Zach Ertz. And then again, it depends on what they do in the running game. The running game is going to be a big thing for me in Philadelphia. They're going to have a better running game this season. They're going to need to either add a running back in the draft or they're going to need to add one of these free agents because the run game is really going to help the passing game open up a lot more. And that is going to help people like DeSean Jackson. The way it stands right now, lateral move. I think his value is still even compared to what I saw beforehand. Obviously, leaving Tampa Bay, just like Adam Humphries, opens up maybe a little bit more opportunity, but not nearly enough for me. Obviously, I'll take Tampa Bay's weapons over Philadelphia's weapons at this point. Philadelphia fans, calm down. Don't start yelling at me at this point. So I don't think DeSean Jackson is in for a huge bump. However, if they add like a Le'Veon Bell, if they add like a Tevin Coleman, I don't know, if they just add a running back that's better than the options that they currently have, that really could help open up the passing game a lot more and make things easier on Carson Wentz and the receivers. And DeSean Jackson, again, big playability. So I think in matchups next year, I'm starting him in opportunities where he really has a chance to face defenses that give up big plays. That's where I would be starting DeSean Jackson next year. Moving on, 2 Lions players here. Maybe a couple of under the radar guys, a Danny Amendola and a Jesse James. Danny Amendola not changing his value too much. Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones will still be those top 2 options there. Hopefully, Kerryon Johnson is used more in the passing game and is used more effectively overall as a runner next season and a running back. But with Danny Amendola, I think he has some opportunity. I'm not running out here and saying he's putting up Golden Tate-esque numbers when he was with the Lions. I'm not saying anything like that. But Danny Amendola, finally back-to-back seasons, 15 games, a little bit healthier at this point. I like him. From just a pure football standpoint, I like the move for the Lions. From a fantasy football standpoint, he is a guy that I will take some late round waiver wire shots at. A late round draft and waiver wire shots at. So excuse me there. So he's the guy that I will definitely be adding to my team if the value falls that far. But I don't think we're grabbing him thinking, oh my gosh, the next PPR monster. That's not happening. But I do like what he could potentially offer there for late round value. And Jesse James, I know there was a few people on Twitter that thought that this was a good signing, but don't get too worked up or too excited because the Lions don't have really any other tight ends at this point. Jesse James is a blocking tight end. He's not a receiving tight end. He played more snaps than any other tight ends for the Steelers last year, but he also blocked on well over 50% of those snaps. So when he was in the game as an extra blocker, and that's why Detroit has signed him, so they can get Kerryon Johnson in that running game even a step further in 2019. Jesse James is not going to be a receiving option. Yeah, he'll get some looks here and there, but he is not a guy that I want to own. Not in tight end premium, not in 2 tight end leagues, and definitely not in 1 tight end league. So he's not a guy that you should be looking at drafting or picking up the waiver wire or anything like that. Because if he's in the game, it's going to be to block. So this is just a little bit of reaction to some of these maybe under the radar signings or signings that don't seem as sexy, as we'll say, than some of the other ones. So just throwing a few of these names out here and my quick reactions to them. Again, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Let us know what you're thinking. A lot of good stuff going on here in free agency. The draft is coming up. So much content to come on the Fantasy Headliners. So don't miss out. Make sure you subscribe today. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.